Well, good morning, and welcome to Zen Live, or a new metaphor for your toolbox. And today is July 1st, and we're coming into the July 4th celebration, the Declaration of Independence Day. And everybody shoots off fireworks and has a good time, but we really don't know what the metaphorical meaning of Independence Day is. I mean, it means the celebration of a birthday, America's Big Bang, right? The day we were born, right? It's a birthday celebration, birthday party, all that, you see. But that's really not what its higher meaning is. It's subjective meaning, and that's the objective meaning. It's in time. Look at the calendar. Oh, there's July 4th. And then you can count the years back to the first day of Declaration of Independence, you see. That's the horizontal meaning. But what's the vertical meaning? You see, everything has a horizontal meaning in time and space, in history, particles, you see, things that rise and fall that can be measured by time, all right? That's the horizontal. But what's the vertical meaning? What's the timeless meaning? And what does it mean for liberation? If something doesn't liberate us, it's flat. If some event, some idea, some story, some philosophy, some religion doesn't liberate you, break the bonds, and give you independence, freedom, it's flat. It's just a flat line. You know, like in the hospital, when when you're in the hospital, and you see this all the time in the TV shows, you know, somebody's there, we're all hooked up, you know, and it's like boom, 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 and then suddenly, flat line. That's a metaphor for our horizontal world. See, horizontal world, time, past, future, and me at some point there, right? And then if you look at the universe, 12 billion year universe, you got your Big Bang here, right? And they can calculate when the universe ends. Boom. Right? So this is the flat line. This is the horizontal line. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it misses the vertical line, which is now. So every point, you see, on the flat line, every minute, every second is always now. It's always now, even though you can measure the nows in inches, or you see, this is like a big ruler, right? And we measure this horizontal line in instants, moments, minutes, hours, days, months, years, eons, yada, 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 right? It's a ruler. And so we measure our country on this ruler. There was the Big Bang the day it was born, and then how long does it go? And everybody says, well, it doesn't look like it's going to last too long, but whatever. It's all on a ruler. It's all inches. It's all a measurement by the mind. So you can catch a bus. So you can make a clock. You see, you can make a clock. You can analyze the clock. You can see, you can analyze time. And you can break it down into minutes. How many minutes does it take? How many hours does it take? How many hours does it take to get from here to here, you see? And that's needed. I mean, you look, you're going to Washington, and the Waze will tell you you're going to be there in an hour and a half. And it's pretty accurate. So our measurement capacity is getting sharper and sharper, you see. We can measure things we never could measure before. And we get fascinated with it. the weather report. What's the weather report? But they're just measuring the weather. They're not doing anything about it. So we're going to measure this for you. What does the news do? Oh, we're going to follow this for you. It doesn't change. You know, they're just going to measure it. So this measuring, this calculation is all part of the flat line. Or we could call it Ken Wilber calls it the flatland. Flatland, you see. And this does not include the vertical, which you can't measure. You can't measure now. How big is now? How long is now? It's immeasurable. It's unqualifiable. You can't qualify now. You get the idea? You can't get a ruler and hold it up to now. Now won't stand still. Now is like the laser dot the cat chases. He's trying to catch now, but he can't chase it. He can't catch it. And when he jumps on it, it's gone. You get the idea? So, Tolle's quote for today, let's get to Tolle. Let's get to Tolle, our good friend Eckhart. And he says, knowing yourself goes far deeper than the adaptation of a set of ideas and beliefs. Spiritual ideas and beliefs may at best be helpful pointers, metaphors, but in themselves they rarely have the power to dislodge more firmly established core concepts of who you think you are, which is part of the conditioning of the human mind. Isn't that interesting? Knowing yourself goes far deeper than the adaptation of a set of ideas or beliefs. So, knowing yourself then, in the context of what Independence Day, knowing yourself is a breakout of independence. I'm free from the conditioning of my own mind by my thinking and the concepts and beliefs that I hold and wrap myself into. See, we wrap ourselves in the flag. We wrap ourselves in ideas and beliefs and opinions, you see. And that holds us in place. I don't feel exposed. I'm not naked. I'm somebody. And Facebook is full of, where we hang out, Facebook is full of spiritual ideas and beliefs. So you can get, or political ideas and beliefs, or you can get into an argument or a conflict or an opinion war on almost anything. Because we're always coming up against human minds wrapping themselves in ideas and beliefs, or thinking. So what is independence but liberation from thinking? So if you're liberated from thinking, what are you? I don't know. I know who I am when I think about who I am, when I qualify myself. See, thinking qualifies you. The horizontal line of time, the flat land, is a qualified land. Everything is qualified. Everything can be defined or doubted. And then you can question and argue about the definition, which is where we're stuck in now, in the war between fake and real news, fake, fake, real, real, fake, right, feel, blah, 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 blah. Each defining the other, you see. But anyway, so I've been reading, I picked up my old books of Ken Wilber, and so I've started reading Ken Wilber's books, and I just got stimulated to do that because he has a new updated version of A Short History of Everything, and I had that book. And so it's been 10 years since I read it, so I decided to go back and read it. So I go back and read it, and it's really interesting when you read spiritual ideas. Now here again, see, Tolle says, spiritual ideas and beliefs. Okay, well, when you read something like Eckhart Tolle or Ken Wilber or any of the spiritual thinkers, you're getting into thinking and knowing myself through these ideas, you see. And then Tolle goes ahead and says, they're helpful pointers. They may be helpful pointers, but in themselves, they rarely have the power to dislodge. Now, I've noticed that when people wrap themselves in spiritual or religious ideas, they fly their flag by quoting the ideas that they've wrapped themselves in. So it might be the Bible, and people become very proficient. I'm amazed that how they can just roll quotes of scriptures off. And whenever there's any kind of a argument or a discussion, it's kind of like trench warfare in the World War I, and you line up your cannons of scriptures and you can lay a barrage of scriptures on the other side, just inundating them, just obliterating them, you see, with a barrage of scriptures, you see. They can't compete, you see. Or you can throw Krishnamurti quotes at them, or you can throw Nasadatta Radha, or some yogi or something like that, you see. So, in other words, so we use spiritual idea as ammunition for our artillery that defends our flag, our particular knowledge flag that we wrap ourselves in. So, when spiritual ideas become a metaphor, which is what Tolle said, they point. Metaphors point, then. The only true value of a spiritual idea is its metaphorical value to point to the now. If the spiritual idea frames you or wraps you into a particular enhanced position on the flat line, you see, then it becomes detrimental to your liberation. It becomes a wall around your liberation. It becomes an impenetrable barrier to your freedom from thinking. So if you wrap yourself in thinking, how can you be free of thinking? Thinking makes you think you're free of thinking. Thinking by quoting scriptures and spiritual ideas as your own, you basically wrap yourself in a cocoon with the belief you're a butterfly. I believe I'm free, but you're in a cocoon of thinking. So how do you know if you're free or not? Creativity. So let's take a look at something. Going back to Ken Wilber now. Basically, Ken Wilber, in this particular first chapter I'm reading, talks about evolution. What is evolution? And he breaks it down into self-transcending holons. Now, a holon, I hope I don't get too deep here. A holon, whole and on, holon, is a word for the one and its parts. For instance, this is a holon. It's an eraser. It's a magic marker. It's the one. It's this. It's not a watch. It's a magic marker. But it's also made up of parts. So I could look at the black, and I could look at the words, and I could look at the shape, and I could keep breaking it down analytically. Plastic, where did these parts come from? Who made it? Yada yada. What is the what is that stuff that smells made of? You see, so I can really, out of this one, you see, one thing, I can break it down, reduce it down to, grind it down, reduce it down to its first cause, like maybe the plastic. You know, in other words, I could break it all down there. But the one, if you break this down, say, what is this? And so you say, well, let's study it. Break it up, look at the parts, break it all down and study all the parts, but I will have no idea what it's used for. I'll have no idea what, I don't know. I can see plastic, it's ink, it's got this stuff in it, you know what? Or like a watch. Okay. If you take this watch, for instance, it's my father's watch, and I have to wind it every day, right? So what is that? Well, let's break it apart. This is it's one watch. Break it apart, and you could go all the different parts. And you could see how the parts work. It's a machine. Then you wind it and all that. But it won't tell time. If you break it apart, it won't tell time. So you won't know what it means. You see? So this idea of a hold-on is a one with parts, and everything is within a larger hold-on. So it's like Russian nesting dolls. That's such a great metaphor. You open one up, there's another one. You open that up, there's another one. You open that up, there's another one. So every hold-on is within a larger hold-on. So this clock, you see, this watch, has meaning because it tells time. And it tells time because it's in the larger hold-on where I need time. If I didn't need time, this watch wouldn't have any meaning. If I had Alzheimer's, well, I'm getting a little far now. But anyway, the point is that hold-ons, the universe is made up of hold-ons. Now we all see this. I mean, of holes that have parts, and each part contains hold-ons. So if you get like, you break this down into, well, maybe this, but anyway, when you break a hold-on apart, it has parts, and each part is a hold-on for smaller parts. See? So this whole universe expansion is self-transcending. It creativity is creating bigger hold-ons. Now when it comes to mind, you see, mind evolves. So mind creates, because it's part of the cosmos, mind creates larger hold-ons, which is self-transcending understanding. So understanding is self-transcending, because understanding gives you a larger idea of who you are, until you come to the source of creativity, which is emptiness. Now, of course, in our science, we say, well, the Big Bang. Well, what is the Big Bang? What's the cause of the Big Bang? Well, you know, nothing. So when you reduce everything down to the Big Bang, you come to emptiness, and this is Zen. But emptiness is also spirit. It's the same thing. Except when you say spirit, we kind of like want to inject a God into it. But spirit has no qualities. It's not quantifiable. You can't see anything in spirit. You can't say, well, it's big or it's small. You can't put spirit on the flat line, you see. Emptiness does not fit on the flat line because it has no qualities. It's only something that has a quality, a form, that exists in time. Form exists in time. You can't separate form from time and say, oh, there is a form, but it doesn't have a beginning or an end. You see, you can't That's like separating the reflection from the mirror. You see, so if there is form, there is time and space and qualities. Otherwise, you couldn't see it. So to perceive something, it must come up on this flat line. See? Boop. There it is. It's like radar. Blip. Something exists. Where did it come from? I don't know. It's empty. So if something appears and you say, I don't know where it is, you can be darn sure that we're going to start looking for it in the flat line. Well, it's got to have a cause. Maybe the cause was, boop, that, you see. Aha, I found the cause for this. It's that. It explains it, you see. If we can't find the cause, it drives us crazy. There has to be a cause of everything on the flat line. But when you move to the vertical, which is now, which is I am, which is your subjectivity, you see, this is an objective view of the world, necessary to make stuff and catch a bus. But the subjective view is that I am now, that I am now, I am now. And then every moment, I am now, I am now, I am now. I'm never in it when I'm now. I'm only in it when I change my viewpoint and see myself on the flat line, you see? So now is I am. And the flat line is I am it. Or you are it. I am it, you are it. We're two it's. But now there is just I am. So where does this I am come from, you see? If it has no cause, now has no cause. What causes now? Yesterday? What causes this moment right now that is a moving laser dot, you see? This now that is always now is not stationary. It's dynamic. So you could say now is the dynamic now. The dynamic now, you see. It's a verb. It's action. It's now. It's a wave. Watch a wave go. Of course, we can see the wave. The only reason we can see the wave is because we're outside of it, and I can see where it starts over there and it moves like that, you see. That's because I can see the wave on the flat line of space. See, here's the wave and it's moving along. And I can say, oh, it took 5 minutes for that wave to get from here to here. Or it's a tsunami. Oh, the tsunami started there and it took 20 minutes for it to get here, you see. But if you are on the wave, you can't measure it. When you are now, you can't measure it. Because to measure it, you have to flip yourself onto the horizontal line. Then you can hold a ruler up, you see, and measure it, you know. But when you are now, you have surrendered to now. And you just are. You just I am. I only become an it when I flip over to the horizontal view. And we have to realize that the dominant view of the Western civilization is the horizontal view. This view here has no validity because it does not fit the flat map. You can't measure it. And in our world, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. In order for something to be real, it has to have a form. It has to be matter, material. Anything that doesn't have form is just an opinion. No, it's just your opinion. That's just your belief, you know. But it doesn't exist until a whole bunch of people can get out a ruler and say, yeah, that's 5 inches. And then you might get a little disagreement. Well, I think it's 4 3/4, but no, it's really 5. You know, so forth. But the point is that liberation from the flat line of being in history is a transcendence, okay? Creativity. So creativity is self-transcendence. Creativity is self-transcendence. So when animals and species evolve, they're self-transcending. Matter, which was the beginning of the Big Bang, evolves, self-transcends into life. You got cells, you got worms, you got lizards, and life transcends, self-transcends into mind. And then mind self-transcends into spirit or emptiness. And now we're back to Zen. You see. The ultimate liberation would be to spirit or emptiness. And that is the Buddha's awakening. So like the Buddha, which is really just, there is no such thing as a Buddha, a person. That's on the flat line. Oh, there was a Buddha back 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 2,500 years, whatever, So like the Buddha was a thing. Well, that's just the flatline view. But when in Buddhism, Buddhism is a now way, a way to now. So the Buddha is now. Everything is now. Past and future are now, because now is eternal. And when you are now, then you are eternal. And that is the Declaration of Independence. And it's a self-transcending, it's a discovery. You can't find now on the flat line. Is this now? Are we there now yet? Are we there yet? Are we there? Am I enlightened yet? Am I there yet? Am I there? No, not yet. I'm always in time. And when I do get somewhere, I'm still, well, what's next? I keep thinking and looking in time, you see. So this vertical view is not easy to stumble into, because you have to go against the whole conditioning of our civilization. But this is breaking up today. Just look at the internet and the tremendous influx of non-dual or now philosophies. Non-dual is now. Now is non-dual because you can't break it into two. You can't break now into two parts. Unless you see everything from the horizontal view, then you break it into two parts and say sub I and you. I and it, that's two. But out of that two, I and it, there is a source of emptiness out of which I and it are created, you see. So this whole path of discovery of self-transcendence is to activate the source. Source of the whole cosmos, not just you and me. We are the cosmos. You and I are the cosmos aware of itself. Dogs are aware, they look around, but they're not aware that they are aware. They have evolution has evolved. I mean, they have mind, but the next stage in the evolution of mind is the self-reflecting mind. The mirror mind, you see. I'm aware of myself, you see. But that is not the last stage of evolution. Because now, that's locked in thought and concepts and beliefs. So we lock our self-reflection, we lock our emptiness, in thinking. Why do we do that? Well, if I don't lock myself into thinking and beliefs about who I am, then I don't have any existence. I'm not a thing. I'm not a form. I'm empty. And I can't have that. Who am I if I'm not measurable? I got to be measurable. I got to be 6 feet tall. I got to be male. I got to be an American. I got to have these beliefs. What church do you go to? What nation do you belong? What language do you speak? You see, we want to qualify. We want to put everything. Everything has to be reduced to the flat line. Because everything on the flat line gives us a place. Well, if you meet some people at a party, they want to place you. I love Blackstone in this area because most of the conversation here is about updating your placemat. Well, what happened to so-and-so? Oh, well, they moved away. Oh, really? Oh, well, they had 2 children. Oh, I'll update that. Now, so-and-so has, you can see the computer going, oh, so-and-so has 2 children. And, right. And so it's just constant updating. Oh, so-and-so died. Well, I'll take them off. But so-and-so just moved here. Oh, I'll put them on. It's a flat line, the flat map, you see. But when you meet that person, maybe there was some kind of negativity quality about them. Oh, that person is really irritating. Oh. So when you meet the person and you transcend the expectation of that person to be irritating, and suddenly you fall into the now with that person, which is I, you, and the flatland, the I, it world falls away, and you and that person are just in a holon. You have created a new holon of you, I, and you. And you become fast friends. Or intimate friends. No judgment, no boundaries. And you just love being with that person because when you're with that person, they reflect you. So you have created then a holon, which includes you and that person. If it's a romantic thing, well, then you get married. So anyway, but the idea here is that the force of gravity of our civilization, and again, there's nothing wrong with this, it's just something we need to understand. The force of gravity brings everything down to the flat, horizontal line of time and space and qualified quantity. How high is it? How small is it? How long is it? How much does it weigh? What color is it? What's its religion? What's its opinion? Yada, 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 you see. And the now is kind of like a black hole. And you're going along in the flat land looking for something new, because once you know something on the flat land, it becomes boring. You got to have something new. Hometowns become boring because there's nothing new. So the flatland needs stimulation, needs experience, excitement, something to live for, you see. So this now is kind of like a black hole. We're going along, you see, bored, you see, and suddenly we meet somebody, or suddenly you're reading something, and there is a self-transcending idea that just comes from nowhere. Chance? Was it chance that I met this person? Was it chance that I got this book in the library that transformed me? Was it chance that I saw this movie that changed my life? Was it chance? Or was it the cosmos creating me? Was it me creating me? You see, this really, the idea that the universe is creative, that the universe has intention to create more coherent holons, then the cosmos has an intention for me to create, for me to self-transcend and break free of the prison of my own thinking. If I think everything is boring, then I'm locked in my thought that this is boring. This isn't boring, this is now. Now is never boring. Only the thought of now is boring because it's not new. It's not interesting enough for even me to pay attention to. So I run around in my mind looking for something. I daydream, I look at my phone. You see, this moment is always, from the flatland point of view, now is always boring. Okay? So, once in a while, we stumble into this black hole, this honey pit, And my father, I remember my father didn't tell me a whole lot about his experiences, but he was in China before World War II on the Yangtze River. And when they would go ashore, particularly at night, they would have to watch out for the honey pits, because the Chinese would put the human excrement in these pits where they used it for fertilizer, and you could accidentally step in one. So you can accidentally step in the now. But from the point of view of the point of view of the flatland, that's a shithole. You don't want to step in the now. Why? Because you disappear. You fall into emptiness. So even creativity from the flatland point of view is a shithole, a honey pit. Because if you create, you are not your thinking. You are transcending your thinking. You're transcending the idea of what this place is. You're transcending, if you want to just discover a new way to open a box, you have to transcend your belief that it can only be opened one way. So thinking and belief locks us into the flatland, you see? And we are inherently bored by the flatland, yet we are afraid to leave it and step into a honey pit. And we say this all the time, like, this is crazy shit. So this self-transcendence, you see, is always putting pressure, the pressure from the now is always putting the pressure of the cosmos, the pressure of the creativity, the creative force of the cosmos, which the cosmos is, you see, is always putting force on us in this flatland to break out. And the more we refuse to break out and declare our independence from thinking, the more suffering we experience. You see, because there's a tension between the now, which is the cosmos creating itself now, every moment, the cosmos creating itself like a fountain, you see. And you're resisting that by walking along this flat line. And you're resisting the pressure of your own being to create itself and get in alignment with the universal creative force, you see. That being out of alignment with creativity creates a wobble, creates pain, creates tension. Just like when you're driving a car and it's out of alignment, it's drifting off. Oh, you got to keep it pulled. The worse it gets, the more you got to work to keep that car on the road. The worse the tension develops between the pressure for be creative and be independent and break out, you see, the more resistance, the greater the pain of the misalignment. But what do? We blame it on somebody else or on the world. The world doesn't like me. I'm screwed up because my mother didn't potty train me. You know, the cause is somewhere else. The cause is in time. There's no cause in the now. The now is free from cause and effect. There is no cause of the now because the now is creating itself. There's no cause to creativity because creativity transcends itself. So yesterday can't cause now because now is totally different from yesterday or the last moment. See, this is a different way of looking at it. This is a Buddhist way, a Zen way of looking, and it's also quantum physics. Creativity is a quantum leap. Creativity, the universe is creating itself as a new holon that didn't exist before. It's self-transcending. It's not a line of cause and effect started by some chance Big Bang. The neo-Darwinists would say the universe was started by chance. And if you gave 1,000 monkeys a a billion years, one of them would write Shakespeare by chance. Well, there's a flaw in that. The flaw is that the Big Bang, because it locates the universe is 12 billion years old. The universe is 12 billion years old. That means that the 1,000 monkeys would only have 12 years to create the universe. Or type Shakespeare. So chance does not explain. Now, so if chance is not the cause of us, then there must be a cause built into the cosmos, and that is the cosmos. Creativity is built into the cosmos. It is a creative, dynamic, you could almost say living, evolution, self-creating evolution, world without end, creation without end. Does creation stop? No. And so the source of the creativity is no source. It's emptiness. And so we've talked a lot about this. Well, it's time for me to stop talking. And we'll continue this talk, I guess, on independence and the meaning of freedom and how we can create the conditions for it, you see. So anyway, have a great weekend and thanks for dropping in.